The gate slams shut behind you. For the next 7 days, this castle is supposed to keep you alive. Its walls can stop arrows and ladders. They cannot stop dirty water, human waste, damp bedding, or infection. You are not a lord. You are one of the workers who must sleep, eat, and use the same crowded rooms as everyone else. By sunset, the first danger is obvious. The castle smells of smoke, animals, wet wool, cooking grease, and the latrines. That smell is unpleasant, but smell alone is not the killer. The real threat is what your hands carry from one surface to another. Medieval people were not strangers to washing. Hands and faces were commonly cleaned when water, time, and fuel allowed. Wealthier households employed laundresses, kept basins, and sometimes used cisterns, wells, and gravity-fed water systems. But a crowded siege changes the equation. Water must be guarded, fuel rationed, and every cleaning job competes with defense. Your first survival rule is simple. Never assume that clear water is safe simply because it looks better than the rest. A castle may rely on a deep well, rainwater cisterns, springs, or water carried in before the gates close. The well is the best protected source, but every rope, bucket, and dirty hand can introduce new contamination. You cover your bucket, keep its cup separate, and refuse to dip a used vessel back into the main supply. It is not modern germ theory. It is practical separation. Drinking water stays away from washing water, animals, and waste. The second rule begins at the garderobe, the castle toilet built into the wall. Inside, a wooden or stone seat opens above a chute. Waste falls into a pit, a moat, or the ground outside. That is far more convenient than walking into the freezing yard, but convenience creates another chain of contact. The latch, seat edge, wall, belt, and clothing can all carry what the eye cannot see. You keep your cloak outside, roll loose fabric away, and touch as little as possible. Afterward, you wash with the cleanest water available and dry on your own linen, not a communal rag. If water is too scarce for a full wash, you still clean fingers, nails, and any skin that touch the chamber. At night, chamber pots reduce the walk through dark corridors. They also create a dangerous morning job. One stumble can spread waste across rushes, shoes, and bedding before anyone fully wakes. You carry the pot by its strongest handle, keep it covered, and take the shortest clear route to disposal. The third rule is about where you sleep. The softest bed is not always the safest bed. Straw bedding traps warmth, but old straw can also shelter fleas, lice, and other vermin. Bites cost sleep. Scratching breaks the skin. Broken skin gives dirt another way into the body. You choose the raised pallet away from the wettest wall, the latrine passage, and the animals. You shake the linen outside, inspect seams, and keep tomorrow's clothes in a closed chest. Herbs and bedding may improve the smell or discourage some pests, but they are not a magical shield. The real advantage comes from dry material, frequent disturbance, and distance from known infestations. By the second night, you understand why sleep is a survival resource. Exhaustion makes every later choice worse. Cold makes the problem sharper. Wet linen steals heat even when the room is above freezing. You change the layer against your skin whenever you can, then dry the wet piece near, not on, the hearth. Too close, and the cloth scorches. Too far, and it stays damp through the night. Laundry is heavy labor. Linen may be soaked, scrubbed, beaten, rinsed, and dried whenever weather and water permit. During a siege, that routine shrinks. The cleanest linen is reserved for table use. wounds, and the people who need it most. You protect one narrow strip as if it were medicine, because soon it may be exactly that. The kitchen appears safer. Fire boils water, cooks food, and offers warmth. But the kitchen concentrates raw meat, dirty vegetables, shared knives, greasy boards, flies, and too many hands. Your safest meal is food served hot from a pot that has remained at a steady simmer. You avoid the bowl that has sat uncovered beside the doorway while people, dogs, and dust pass it. You choose bread without visible mold and meat that is fully cooked, not merely browned at the edge. Ale may sometimes be safer than suspect surface water, but it is not a universal cure and it cannot replace hydration. The most dangerous habit is eating with the same unwashed hand that handled a latch, bucket rope, or chamber pot. So before every meal, you wash, even if the water is cold, even if everyone else is already sitting. On the third day, the castle's waste system begins to strain under the extra people sheltering inside. A pit that normally receives a household now receives soldiers, servants, animals, and displaced families. If a chute blocks, the problem moves upward into the wall, the chamber, and the rooms beside it. You report the first slow drain immediately. Waiting for a complete failure would contaminate a whole corridor. A cleaner uses long tools, ash, earth, and controlled access, not bare hands and not heroic improvisation. The corridor is closed until surfaces dry. Your route becomes longer, but distance is cheaper than sickness. Then a smaller emergency appears, a shallow cut across your palm from a broken bucket hoop. In a modern room, it is minor. Here, the wound has already touched rope, wood, water, and stone. You stop work, rinse the cut with the cleanest available water, and remove visible dirt. You do not pack it with floor dust, dung, or a random greasy paste simply because someone calls it a remedy. You cover it with the protected linen strip and keep the bandage dry during the next shift. Pain, swelling, heat, or red streaking would be warning signs. The safest choice is to reduce dirty work early. The castle has healers and experienced household workers, but no antibiotics and no knowledge of bacteria. That means prevention matters more than confidence. Every clean cloth and covered bucket buys time. By day 4, fuel is rationed. Boiling every cup of water is no longer realistic. You reserve heat for cooking, questionable water, vulnerable people, and the wettest clothing. By day 5, sleep loss and smell begin to change behavior. People rush, argue, and ignore routines. This is when discipline becomes a survival tool. One direction for clean vessels, another for waste, one person responsible for each. You stop sharing cups. You stop placing bread on bare tables. You stop sitting on unknown bedding. None of these choices feels heroic. Together, they are the difference between discomfort and collapse. Outside, the besieging force waits for hunger to weaken the defenders. Inside, sanitation determines how fast that happens. Diarrhea would drain water and strength. Fever would remove workers. A cluster of cases could overwhelm the household. You cannot diagnose the invisible cause, but you can recognize the pattern and separate the sick from food and water duties. You assign separate cups, bowls, and cloths, then clean the handles everyone touches most. The sixth night is the coldest. Wind finds every arrow slit, door gap, and stone joint. You need ventilation, but not enough draft to leave bedding wet and bodies chilled. You air the room briefly at midday, then close it before temperature falls. Rushes and straw are swept, but the dirtiest lower layers must be removed rather than endlessly covered. Covering dirt may improve appearance. Removing the source improves survival. On the seventh morning, the well still runs, the kitchen still serves hot pottage, and your cut remains dry. You have not made the castle clean. You have prevented its worst hazards from reaching you all at once. The siege lifts without a final assault. The gates open, and cold fresh air moves through the courtyard. The walls did their job, but your survival depended on the work that history usually leaves outside the heroic story. Covered water, dry linen, hot food, clean hands, a protected wound. Small decisions, repeated every day. Could you survive 1 week inside a medieval castle without modern plumbing? Or would the filth defeat you before the enemy did?